Okay, good afternoon everyone. So today me and my colleague Nikhit are gonna present our story with Aerospike, which is a very new addition to our stack. So and obviously Myntra comes after Flipkart naturally. So the topic of Myntra's sub-millisecond journey with Aerospike, though topic may sound little, anomalous because it will be a journey of years, not milliseconds. But the intent here is that, but the intent here is like how we reach the goal of reaching a millisecond latency for our ever increasing OPMs and RPMs. Okay. So just to add on the Myntra's vision, I think most of us in the room must be buying something or else from Myntra. So our vision has always been to make the world a more stylish, colorful, and happier place. And we come up with a mission of use technology. So technology is always at our heart, and we always try to democratize fashion and lifestyle and help people look good. It might not apply to us all the time, but yes, that is the goal. So having said that, I think I would also like to touch upon a little bit. I think I was hearing Raghu sir's session about sustainability. So I think that has also been our core value, and we have always been trying to do things around that. So just onto that, I think I would like to mention that since I think close to 2 years, we have completely stopped the use of plastic bags for deliveries, and we are completely on paper. Along with that, we have an initiative of Myntra for Earth, where we have around 6,000 brands, which are developed with a lot of biodegradable natural dyes and hand-grown things. So that is another initiative from Myntra on sustainability. So before we go further, I would also like to, so Myntra is probably a new customer to Aerospike, but then we have been using the community editions almost since last more than 3 years. And we have been in partnership with the different teams. So as Nikhit and me present, similar to the DBAS group, as Flipkart folks were saying, we are also centrally managing a database group at Myntra, which not only manages the Aerospike, but we have also other like SQL stores, even the NoSQL stores, caches. So Aerospike is pretty new to our stack now, and we just want to talk about the journey because very recently, I think around 4 months back, we have onboarded to the enterprise version of the same. So same I'll talk about. So agenda at a glance, I think I'll just touch upon Myntra's journey at a glance as a business unit. Then we'll talk about a little bit on Myntra's tech ecosystem, like what are our stacks, like infrastructure and all. Next is, I think, our evolution of Aerospike with other stores. So before obviously getting in, even to the enterprise version, there were a lot of other market players which we have been evaluating, and even we have been using them. So we would just like to present a glimpse on that. So what were our, the experiments done, and how did we come to the conclusion of using Aerospike for certain use cases. We'll also touch upon the overall footprint of Aerospike at Myntra and the key use cases where we basically Myntra uses Aerospike. At the same time, I think very interestingly, so there's a very interesting story which Nikhit will cover. So we were in the middle of our DC migration at Microsoft Azure. So we wanted to move from one region to other across like hundreds of services. And that was the same time where we signed the deal with Aerospike. So we just wanted to leverage the advantages of enterprise as well as, the enterprise support. So the timelines were very strict, and how we get out of it, I think that was quite a success story for us. Obviously, all days are not great, so there have been some glitches while we did that, and we would also like to talk about them in a bit. Basically, after we moved to enterprise, although we have come out of it, but yeah, a little bit of discussion we'll have around that. And yes, last but never the least, I think future expectations, right? So I think given the sessions we have, and we like Srini talked about it, I think a lot of them are already covered, but we would still like to highlight what we are looking forward from Aerospike Enterprise in coming years. So yeah, this is more of a historical info with respect to Myntra. I think just want to quickly go over it. So we were founded in 2007, acquired by Flipkart. That was a major turnaround in 2014. And after a few years, I think around 2018 timeline, we have been under the umbrella of Walmart as a part of Flipkart group. The founders, Mukesh and Ashutosh Lavania with Vineet, they did it in 2007. We started as a small shop like around 2007 where we were just personalizing t-shirts and mugs. That was our starting business. And slowly, like 2011, we actually moved full-fledged into the fashion and lifestyle genre. In terms of scale, if I talk about like current days, we are getting orders like at our peak, like we get around 20 to 21,000 orders per minute. User base is almost 500,000 on a BAU. Then again, as far as concurrency is also concerned, which is generally the major bottleneck when it comes to databases, I think we are already crossing 500,000 concurrent users when it comes to peak, especially during the sales and BFDs and those kind of HRD events. In terms of branding, I think yes, we are a mix of in-house as well as exclusive brands. I think a lot of private brands are a big success for Myntra, like Roadster, HRX, House of Patadi, to name a few, which are exclusively available on Myntra and Flipkart. And then I think probably, yeah, one of the richest lineup we have in terms of fashion, and it is ever growing. So a lot of focus on beauty and personal care also very recently. This is a high level view of Myntra stack. I'll just go like bottom top. So yeah, we are a Azure shop. I think 99, rather 100% I can say our production infra is at Microsoft Azure across 2 regions. Although like we are mostly in 1 region now, but then we still have presence in 2 regions. We are using a lot of PaaS services as well from the Azure. In terms of data, as I said, we have a mix of data stores. I think we have a lot of SQL systems. We have NoSQL systems for different use cases. Along with that, Aerospike is again a critical data store for us, which covers certain very, very key use cases. But most of them, I think we are still using the open source version. So we are still kind of a open source kind of a shop where we still leverage a lot of MySQL and Cassandras in the open source versions itself. Then a lot of use cases in terms of data science and ML. So we have a complete different team which manages the whole Myntra data platform, which covers ML and data science. And in terms of services, I think currently we have around 500 plus microservices, which takes care of different business units, right? So we have over 200 critical services on storefront size, basically, which is something which is before you place an order, like till you place an order, and then a whole stack for supply chain, both inbound and outbound, which is how your order gets delivered to your home after you actually place an order. So that itself is a combination of 500 services. Observability, again, a key stack we have in terms of keep an eye, keep the lights on, right? So how the things are running in case everything is good or not. So a lot of stress is there as well. Moving forward, sorry. Green button. Yeah. So I think we have been covering these things, but like as far as our journey with Aerospike is concerned, I think these are the 4 key reasons why we actually moved to Aerospike Enterprise very recently, although the usage was there for the community even before. So of course, the scale is one important aspect, rather the foremost, I would say, where a lot of our use cases expect a sub-millisecond or at least like something less than 5 millisecond response times at the peak, as I said, like during our HRDs. So that is one main reason I think why we considered Aerospike, and there are evaluations we did for the same with some other data stores as well, which we'll cover up. In terms of technology, yes, I think XDR is one great feature which we thought is really going to help us while we are evaluating, especially from compliance and multi-DC setups. So that was something very important. And yes, not to miss like on the connectors, right? So the ease with the connectors, bringing in and out data from Aerospike clusters, like especially on the Kafka clusters and our Spark clusters. So this is something which was kind of missing in the community version. So we were really looking forward, and that was another reason why we went for the enterprise. Consolidation, yes, cost is almost like foremost important. So yes, we did our analysis that because there are some limitations in terms of community, so if we move to enterprise, we can certainly reduce the footprint of our cost in terms of overall infra. So we see a lot of savings there. So another reason, and yes, partnership. I think I would say that should be the topmost one, given my initial experience of 3-4 months yet. I think getting an exceptional support throughout the 24/7 and the partnership which we get while working on an enterprise version is second to nothing. So these are like key reasons, I think. So here's the brief timeline. So I'll give you can follow up.
Sure. Thanks, Pawan. Am I audible? Yeah. So this is how our timeline looks with respect to our community to enterprise movement. We started off in 2020 with some storefront services, primarily using Aerospike initially. As Pawan mentioned, storefront is what the users see. If you have a Myntra app, what the users see is the storefront. So storefront is something that picked up Aerospike community versions initially. Then obviously we started seeing scale issues because community version has many limitations. For example, you can just have 2 namespaces in a cluster, as well as you cannot expand beyond 8 nodes, right? But our scales were going much beyond that, so we already saw limitations. And and we started thinking about other databases as well as Aerospike Enterprise as a solution for these. And there was extensive evaluation done. I would say 4 to 5 months of extensive evaluation, not just of Aerospike Enterprise, of other NoSQL systems, other SQL systems, etc., to meet our needs. And and finally, Aerospike did stand out. When we tested at least another 5 different databases, Aerospike clearly stood out. And of course, the license was procured, and we started using Aerospike from April of this year. So this is something that I wanted to highlight with respect to the test that we did. So Aerospike is on top. This is Myntra's homepage personalization. We have a use case where every user sees a different homepage. So we had to have a database for it, and we were comparing Aerospike with another very popular in-memory store. And these are the results. I mean, you can see we were running about 125K operations per second, if you close to 125K on Aerospike, and a P99, I think the latency number is missing, but a P99 latency of 0.3 milliseconds is what we received with Aerospike. And with the other in-memory store, another popular in-memory store, we saw a P99 latency of 0.5 milliseconds. This is again on the reads, both are on the reads. And even if you look at the graph, right, see how Aerospike is able to sustain that number. And when you look at the other in-memory store, it has its ups and downs. So this is something that we wanted to highlight, and it's just not one test. We've done multiple tests over a period of 3 to 4 months. Yeah. Now, this is with respect to Myntra's Aerospike footprint. As Pawan mentioned already, we started off with enterprise very late, I think April. So we have currently about 25 different clusters. We have in-memory solutions, we have hybrid solutions, we also have an all-flash solution, and also I believe there is a strong consistency mode cluster as well. And in terms of nodes, 150 different nodes, of varying sizes, and we don't use Intel. Just to tell you, we use AMD on these nodes. Most customers use Intel, I believe. So we use AMD for these, just for cost benefits, and things have been fine.
Just to add on that, so this is still the non-consolidated view. So we are still working on to consolidate this view further, so bring down the footprint. So that is why the nodes are pretty much higher.
Yeah, so what he meant was, we had a lot of community versions, and we had obviously a bottleneck of 2 namespaces. And when we had to move to enterprise, we just moved from there to there. So ultimate plan is to consolidate. And 8 TB unique data footprint. I know this number looks small, but then we are always adding more use cases, and it will continue to evolve, and probably another 6 months this could be double. Never know. These are few key use cases that we have for Aerospike. I'm sure most of you guys use Myntra app. Anything that you search on Myntra hits an Aerospike cluster at the back end. So in terms of operations, millions of operations per second, right? And P99 read as well as write, I would say read is sub-millisecond, sub 1 ms. Then homepage personalization, Again, I briefly mentioned about it earlier. Homepage personalization, what it means is any user that logs into Myntra sees a different homepage based on his or her previous purchases, previous searches, etc. Yeah, that also hits an Aerospike cluster somewhere behind. And it obviously supports 500,000 operations per second, and again, sub-millisecond, which is not mentioned here. The third use case is notifications. Again, you might see a lot of notifications coming into your mobile from Myntra, if you have Myntra as a notification enabled. We process 1 billion notifications in a day. So we have a user base about probably 150 to 200, I would say 175 to 200 million. And every user on an average receives five notifications a day. And all these users, we cannot afford to have, let's say, one user getting one notification at a time, and probably after 20 or 30 minutes, another user getting a notification. We make sure all these notifications are processed within a 2 to 3 minute window. And obviously, we have a large footprint of ML platform, spread across 8 clusters currently. And in terms of TPS, tens of millions, combining all these 10 clusters. Yeah. So this is a big win that we wanted to speak about. So as Pawan mentioned briefly, that we had an entire data center migration from a region in Azure to another region in Azure. And we were, the entire Myntra's tech stack had to be moved, which obviously includes all databases, also including Aerospike. And we did not, we were using community for a long time, so we did not have a solve for it, right? We wanted to do it with literally zero downtime or very small amount of downtime. We were able to achieve that on Aerospike using XDR, a combination of XDR as well as backup and restore process. So how this was done was, now once you enable XDR, whatever new data or new updates are going to come into a cluster, it automatically pushes it to the passive cluster or the destination cluster. And we were able to restore whatever old data is there using the backup and restore feature, which also the restore feature also includes a unique flag which lets us, let's say, skip whatever data is already present. So with this, we get an assurance that both the Azure region, the Azure region A is in sync with Azure region B, and all that the application needs to do is just switch, a click of a button and you're done. You have the entire data set on the other side, and you are ready to, you essentially have an uptime. So yeah, this was a big win for us. Not all days are hail and hardy, right? So we had a couple of challenges, I would say. One, obviously, which was more controllable for us, which was in our control. But another one which was not in our control, which was a data corruption on multiple nodes on an Aerospike cluster. The reason primarily for this corruption was that we had set up our configurations in a wrong way. We were supposed to use raw device, but then we ended up having the device mounted, because our Terraform by default has this feature of, has this process of mounting the disks. And the problem with this was, this was running for about 3 to 4 months, and all of a sudden we hit this write block errors, and that was a major challenge. But I'm glad to say the support team was exceptionally helpful in getting us through this, and they also helped us identify another 8 clusters with a similar issue. So before we hit that, we were able to migrate it out to a fresh cluster, and we were able to solve that problem. So that in a way is a challenge as well as a big win, because we were not impacted much. Okay, and the second is, of course, as I said, it's more in our control. We manage a vast array of versions currently, 4.0 to 6.1. 4.0 is our oldest, 6.1 is our newest. And the problem with this is we have to have multiple environments for testing, QA, stage, etc. So this is something that we want to avoid, and we are also already we've upgraded close to 90% of our clusters already to 6.1. Yeah. So this is Myntra's roadmap for Aerospike. I think I'm running short of time, so I'll try to cover quickly. Pawan mentioned a brief on it, which is cluster consolidation, wherein, as I said, we are going to combine multiple use cases into single cluster. DR setup, couple of clusters already have a DR setup using XDR. We have an active passive setup. We are going to do that on all the other clusters to ensure compliance. Other in-memory, we have a lot of other in-memory stores, a lot of instances. We ultimately will want to move to Aerospike Enterprise. So that is something that is in our pipeline. Leverage enterprise security. There are multiple ways. Community did not have, let's say, basic authentication even. So we would want to onboard that. We would want to encrypt data wherever possible. And we would also want to leverage the HashiCorp Vault collaboration that Aerospike has. Because all other databases that we have in Myntra, we run it through the Vault system. And Flipkart guys did mention about containerization a lot. So we would also look at it in the near future probably. And upgrades. So upgrades, I would say we are 90% done, as I said earlier. So yeah, what we look forward to. So this is something, I think a couple of these already Srini and Subbu did cover, but we would look at a backup and restore solution with point-in-time recovery. I believe it's currently not there. It will really help if we can have it just to manage our RTOs and RPOs, and also complying with just compliance per se. Second, of course, vector search. That's the Gen AI model and LLM based use cases where probably we would go ultimately. So we would not want to look outside for a solution. We would want to see Aerospike bring out vector search at a scale, right? At a scale that Aerospike is known for. So that is something that we look forward to. And third, of course, is a DBaaS solution. Flipkart guys has already made it, so it will help if you guys can make it for us. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's about it. Would be happy to take questions.